We're going to take a look at some ratios that evaluate a company's debt paying ability. You know that the users of financial statements are investors and creditors, as well as other agencies. However, for investors and creditors, before they invest in a company or lend money to a company, they need to evaluate whether the company can pay their debts. In other words, if they have a lot of debt, they'll have a lot of interest expense, and they may not be able to pay that debt, and they could easily fold. A lot of companies have gone bankrupt that way. Recent examples of companies you may know include Blockbuster, the video rental store. They went bankrupt because they could not pay their debt. And American Airlines. American Airlines could not pay their obligations, so they declared bankruptcy. There are several ways to evaluate a company's debt paying ability. We're going to look at three items. The first ratio or computation we're going to look at is called net working capital. Net working capital is equal to current assets minus current liabilities. You know that the current assets are found on your balance sheet, and so are the current liabilities. So again, to calculate net working capital, you would go to the balance sheet, look for a company's current assets, subtract the company's current liabilities, and that will give you your net working capital. Net working capital represents the company's liquidity, operating liquidity, and excess current assets over current liabilities is good. How much excess do we need? Basically, how much working capital does a company need depends on the industry it operates in. Another ratio that shows the company's debt paying ability is the current ratio. Current ratio is calculated by dividing current assets by current liabilities. The current ratio measures the company's ability to pay current liabilities, and as you all know, current liabilities are debts for the company. What is a perfect current ratio? Again, depends on industry. So a company would look at other companies operating within the industry and have similar current ratios. Typically, we say a strong current ratio is 1.5, but again, certain industries operate with a lower current ratio. A third computation we look at is called the debt ratio. The debt ratio is total liabilities divided by total assets. And this measures the ability to pay all liabilities. If you remember, the current ratio looked at only current liabilities, but the debt ratio takes a look at the company's ability to pay all their liabilities. Again, total liabilities and total assets are found on your balance sheet, so the computation is pretty simple. You go pull up what your total liabilities are and then divide that by the total assets. As to the value of your debt ratio, a low debt ratio is safer than a high debt ratio. So you would want a company to have a low debt ratio as opposed to a high debt ratio. If you are comparing two companies, the safer company would be the company with the lower debt ratio.